It is 7:57 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It is the 5th day of August 2025, and this is episode 1140 of Bitcoin. And we're going to talk about this executive order that may or may not come out from the president's desk about debanking. We're also going to touch a little bit on the United Kingdom police force seizing Bitcoin and getting a windfall from it after returning part of the Bitcoin. Anyway, this is Bitcoin, and it's all the news you can use. I'm your host, David Bennett, and we're just going to dive right into the first stories of the day. Let's just do the White House one. New White House order could punish banks. Yep. Yeah. Oh my God, they're going to punish the banks for dropping customers over beliefs. It's already problematic. What is a belief? This may just be bad word choice by the story's author, which is Francisco Rodriguez out of CoinDesk, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see, because this gets really sticky when you start getting into the weeds of something like this. Okay, so the White House is preparing an executive order that would penalize banks for cutting off customers over their beliefs. The order, reported on by the Wall Street Journal, is expected to be signed by President Donald J. Trump as early as this week. It would direct banking regulators to investigate whether financial firms violated the Equal Credit Opportunity Act or other consumer protection laws when closing accounts. Oh, so there's some legal backing behind this with the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Interesting. While the order could still be altered, it would bring further stability to the crypto sector. During the Biden administration, a coordinated effort from the federal government, other than debanking crypto firms, an effort known as Operation Choke Point 2.0. And the draft order does not name specific banks, but it reportedly references an incident involving Bank of America and a Christian nonprofit in Uganda. The bank said it closed the accounts because it does not serve small businesses operating abroad. The initiative is part of a broader push by the Trump administration to stop this debanking. It's a practice of denying financial services for ideological reasons. Banks say their decisions are often driven by concerns about money laundering and regulatory scrutiny, and have blamed regulatory pressure for avoiding the crypto industry. The order calls for regulators to refer violations to the Attorney General. The Justice Department has already taken steps in the order's direction, launching in April a task force to investigate claims that banks were denying customers access to credit or financial services based on, quote, impermissible factors, end quote. Banks have been updating their policies and met with Republican Attorneys General, trying to avoid further conflict per the report. Still, the crypto and wider fintech sector may still face banking difficulties. Venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz, aka A16Z, has warned that banks are making it more expensive for customers to use these apps in what could be seen as a Operation Choke Point 3.0. It's a full point upgrade, y'all. That is a reference to banks that are accepting crypto and fintech business as clients, but charging them hefty fees to access account data or move money, affecting services like Coinbase or Robinhood, and potentially strangling competition. Okay, so what's going to be defined as a belief? Is it my Christian values? I'm an Episcopalian. You know, I mean, that is a belief. I have a belief in God through the lens of the Episcopal Church, which is subset of Christianity in general. It's like a branch of the Jesus tree. I don't know. I mean, however you want to put it. Is that a belief? I think it would be fair to say that most people would say, well, yeah, that's a belief. Well, what about if I have a gun shop? Do I believe in guns, or do I believe in the Second Amendment? Is it a belief, or is it just I make money off of selling guns? I don't have to have a belief. Like, for instance, if I had a fucking burrito stand, right? I don't believe in burritos. I just want to make some really good burritos. There's a place in Midland, Texas called Jum Burrito. Best burritos I've ever had. I miss it all the time. I literally still think about those burritos. Specifically, I'm thinking about their red and green sauces as well as their burritos, but hey, it's an entire package. They don't believe in burritos, right? What they believe in is making money, and the vehicle they've chosen to do it with is selling really tasty burritos. I mean, these things are freaking fabulous, dude. If you're ever in Midland, Texas, you got to go to Jum Burrito, man. You just got to go. Anyway, so what's a belief? Yeah. How is this executive order going to make sure that what really needs to occur is that people just need to stop getting debanked? Okay, if I'm running money through my bank account from selling drugs to school kids, if you can prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt, then and only then, after a court of law, when I've been convicted and found guilty, would those accounts be then frozen, taken away, whatever? Or if I was I'll give him this. I'm indicted for selling drugs to school kids, okay? There's such a suspicion, such a leverage of potential guilt against me in that activity that I've been indicted. Okay, freeze the accounts. But up until that point, honestly, there's no reason for any bank to close anybody at all, ever. It doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. But these are the sticky things that causes problems later on. If things are not, especially in matters of policy, if things are not well defined, if things are just kind of like amorphous and, up for interpretation at a drop of a hat, then problems occur. And I could definitely see problems occurring with this one. However, I will say this, something needs to be done. You can't just say, hey, but you know what? You run a little bit too much, too close to Cash App and Strike, and because Strike is very Bitcoin heavy and Cash App is kind of Bitcoin heavy, we're just going to make the assumption that you're dealing in Bitcoin, and we don't really want to do business with you. So they close not only your account, but any accounts associated with you, which would suck, especially for me, because just because I do something personal doesn't mean that I need to have the other 4 bank accounts associated with various companies that I'm just part of closed. So I'm glad that they're doing something. Honestly, it just bugs me that they're not being very upfront about the parameters. Define the parameters, please. Let's go over to the United Kingdom. And the kingdom is falling down. For more reasons than this, but this is an instance. The UK police force gets a $665,000 Bitcoin windfall from seizures. Connor Stefton from Decrypt. Crime doesn't pay. Well, maybe it does. The old saying goes. But a police force in northern England may beg to differ. Lancashire Constabulary has revealed that it's received a $665,000 windfall after seizing Bitcoin from thieves. The case dates back all the way to December of 2017, when detectives received reports that money had been stolen. Oh my God. An investigation later revealed that the funds had been converted into Bitcoin, which had hit $20,000 for the first time in that same month. By the time the wallets holding this ill-gotten crypto had been frozen, BTC had risen substantially in value. This meant that the victim could be compensated in full, but British law does not allow them to be overpaid. Once the Bitcoin was liquidated and the victim made whole, Lancashire Constabulary was left with a $1.3 million surplus to reckon with. It's now been announced that the police force will receive half of these proceeds in a few months, which will be allocated to a special crime fighting fund. Oh, we're going to go fight some crime. And the other half is, of course, going to be sent to the United Kingdom government because they apparently need it, I guess. Anyway, according to a statement, this fund had previously been used to purchase drones, invest in spam call blocking devices, and finance community projects designed to clamp down on antisocial behavior. Really? Like ripping kids out of their backyard? Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to get into that story. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're not watching what's going on in the UK right now and has been occurring for, okay, let's just call it a couple of years minimum, then you're missing out on one of the most horrific public endangerment stories I've ever seen. This is, do you know the UK? Australians are being warned by the Australian government not to go to the United Kingdom because it's dangerous. It's when Australia is telling you that another country is dangerous. This is a country that literally the land, the environment, and all the insects and fauna and flora is trying to kill humans. All right. This is one of the most dangerous continents on the face of the planet. And it's pointing at UK saying, yeah, probably shouldn't go there. That's how bad it is. Anyway, whatever. Clamp down on antisocial behavior, my ass. It's hoped that the investment will help disrupt the cycle of crime and prevent future offenses. Detective Sergeant David Wainwright from the Force's Economic Crime Unit said, quote, "This is a great result for the people of Lancashire, and hopefully the first of many future uses of this new legislation. You want to steal. You're literally hoping to be able to continue theft." Wow. Anyway, quote, "It's unusual for the criminal property to rise in value to more than that of its original crime, but this has allowed us to fully compensate the victim with some spare that can be used to reduce crime. Those involved in the theft, all who were from Lancashire, have been sentenced for their part of the crime." So you basically stole the profit potential that the original victim could have realized, kept it for yourself, and said that you're good Joes because you compensated the victim for the theft. Even though, and we'll say this, it was the thieves that actually converted the cash that was stolen into Bitcoin. Okay, so I get that there's a precedent, but everything about this is just going to engender civil asset forfeiture of however you want to call it, where you can just take the property of the citizenry and, in this particular case, recover the property of the citizenry, tell them that, well, by law, we can't overcompensate you, so we can only give you the $20 back, but we're keeping the $400 of profit that was made in the meantime. This is a terrible precedent, and it's going to set up extremely bad incentives for the UK police force. And it's not only going to be just the UK. I mean, come on, this is going to be everywhere. We've already seen instances of it, but this is a really good flashlight being shown, or shined rather. I did it again. I've made up a word. Shined on this kind of behavior. And this kind of behavior, this is honestly, man, this shit is going to turn into straight up racketeering. Mark my words, racketeering. You might want to get yourself a drink when that shit happens. And you can do so from peonylanewine.com. That's peonylanewine.com. Circle P is open for business. It's where I bring plebs with goods and services for sale to plebs just like you that want to buy those said good and services. And if you want wine, if you want some really good red wine anyway, and I think he's got a white too. Yes, he does. He does have a Sauvignon Blanc. Go to peonylanewine.com. Ben Justman is the vintner over there. He's the owner of the whole operation, in fact. He takes care of the soil. He grows the grapes. He crushes the grapes. He makes the wine. He ages the wine and then he happily sells it for Bitcoin, because if you're not selling your goods and services in Bitcoin, you ain't in the Circle P. Go over to peonylanewine.com and support your fellow Bitcoin pleb. And make sure that you use the code Bitcoin and. No, you're not going to get a discount. However, this is value for value advertising. If I make a sale for Ben and Ben knows that I made the sale because you put in Bitcoin and in wherever it is that you can put Bitcoin and in the order form, because there's the couple of places you put comments, just say, hey, man, I heard about it on Bitcoin and. Then that tells Ben that I made a sale for him, and he can determine what that sale was worth to him. And he will get me back on the other side in Bitcoin. Usually, I mean, with all this, whenever I'm doing this, I always get paid in zaps is generally how it works, or a huge boost on the podcast or something like that. It's experimental. It's a little kludgy. I get it. However, I need to figure out a way to support the plebs in the space and have the plebs support me in the space so that we can both support you in the space. Because you might have thought the only place that I can go get wine is down at the store, and I don't know any of the people that actually brew, that make this wine. In this case, it's Ben Jessman. He's a friend of ours. We all know and love Ben. He's one of the Bens, and he's got peonylanewine.com. That's peony, Peony, Peony Lane Wine, all one word.com. Go buy some wine. Meanwhile, Hester Pierce, the SEC's Hester Pierce, has defended the transaction privacy as Tornado Cash verdict looms. So we are still waiting for this verdict to come out. Stephen Cotti, Cointelegraph, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Commissioner Hester Pierce told an audience of blockchain researchers and practitioners on Monday that lawmakers and regulators need to protect people's rights to transact privately. Her comments come as Roman Storm's Tornado Cash trial heads towards a verdict. Pierce said in a speech at the Science of Blockchain conference that privacy-protecting technologies and the right to self-custody crypto should be safeguarded, along with the rights of developers of open-source privacy software who shouldn't be held responsible for how others use their code. Quote, we should take concrete steps to protect people's ability not only to communicate privately, but to transfer value privately, as they could have done with physical coins in the days in which the Fourth Amendment was crafted, she said. Quote, although a centralized intermediary, or even a DAO, a DAO, deploying a DeFi application could build in restrictions on its use, an immutable open source protocol is available for anyone's use in perpetuity, so requiring that it comply with financial surveillance measures is fruitless, end quote. Pierce's comments come amid jury deliberations in the trial of Roman Storm, co-founder of the crypto mixing service Tornado Cash, which allows users to mask the origin and destination of cryptocurrency from prying eyes. In the 1990s, governments, for national security reasons, wanted to keep strong cryptography out of private hands, according to Hester Pierce. She noted it took court cases and pushback from cryptographers such as Phil Zimmerman, the developer of pretty good privacy encryption software, to turn the tide, leading to many technological advancements. Quote, the internet could not have succeeded without strong cryptography. So, a determined set of cryptographers pushed back and convinced the government that cryptography in private hands was a net positive. Quote, because of their hard-fought victory in the courts and the court of public opinion, we daily rely on encryption to send email, engage in online banking, buy from online merchants, communicate with one another through voice and video, and conduct many other daily tasks, end quote. In the same speech, Pierce also said that regulators shouldn't be asking businesses to keep a record of who they or their customers transact with, as was nearly enforced by the so-called decentralized finance broker rule. Quote, doing so would deputize all of us to surveil all the rest of us, a practice antithetical to a free society, nor should we require an intermediary to step in the middle of peer-to-peer transactions. As with the internet, technologies that have legitimate uses are better left in the permissionless, available for all to use category, even though it enables people to use them for bad purposes, because taking any other course would impinge fundamental liberties, end quote. Before Donald Trump killed it on April the 10th, the Biden administration era DeFi broker rule would have required DeFi protocols to disclose gross proceeds from crypto sales, including information regarding taxpayers involved in the transactions, to the Internal Revenue Service. Storm is standing trial in the Southern District of New York over allegations that criminal elements use the mixing services for money laundering and that Storm is responsible for facilitating their actions. If convicted, he could face up to 40 years in prison. Storm's defense team and the industry argued that Tornado Cash, like any tool, could be used by both normal citizens as well as bad actors, and the software developers shouldn't be held responsible for the actions of others. In a similar case, the co-founders of Samurai Wallet are facing charges stemming from their involvement in the crypto mixing protocol. They opted to plead guilty on July 29th after initially trying to get the case dismissed. Yes, it's pretty sad that this is still going on. However, it is good news that the Tornado Cash trial or jury deliberations are still ongoing. It means that there's an argument. It means that there's somebody in there who's saying, no, they should not be going. At least one. There's at least one person in there going, no, dude. No, this is not right. And that's a good thing. It only takes, in a jury in the United States, it only takes one on a jury to dissent, and the whole thing collapses. So at least we got that going for us. Let's run the numbers. Futures and commodities, and oil is getting gut punched yet again. 1.4% to the downside for West Texas intermediate crude. That's $65.37 a barrel. Brent North Sea is down 1 1/3 to 67.83. Natural gas doing its thing. It is in the green to the upside, 2 full points to $2.99 per 1,000 cubic feet. Gasoline is down 1/3 to $2.09. Gold is up 1/3 to $34.39 7 dimes. Silver is up just over a full point. Platinum, however, is down 1.13%, as is copper, exact same number to the downside. Palladium is down over a half. Most of ag is in the red today. Biggest winner is coffee. Nope, it's chocolate, 2.17% to the upside. Biggest loser is going to be corn. Oh, corn is down 0.92%. Live cattle, however, livestock is in the green as far as ag is concerned, though. The live cattle is up 1.5%. Lean hogs are up just over 2 full percent. And feeder cattle are up 1.5%. The Dow is down 1/3. NASDAQ is down 0.5%. And the S&P 500 is down 0.5% as well. S&P Mini is down 0.62%. And Bitcoin is down as well, all the way back down to $113,000. That's a $2.25 trillion market cap, and we can only get 33.3 ounces of shiny metal rocks with our one Bitcoin, of which there are 19,902,091 and 1/2 of. And average fees per block are very, very low, 0.02 BTC taken in fees on a per block basis. There are, 18 blocks. Yeah, 18 blocks carrying 69,000 unconfirmed transactions, waiting to clear at high priority rates of 4 Satoshis per VByte. Low priority is going to get you in at 3. Hash rate got a huge bump as from yesterday. It was 900 yesterday. It is now 957 exahashes per second right now. And from the unknown hack, yesterday's episode of Bitcoin, and I got, let's see, from what I can tell, Anonymous with 2121 says, "Hey Dave, good episode. Here's a zap for this and some past episodes that I've been listening to while driving. Hey, on the El Salvador thing, have you heard any comment from Max and Stacy? I'm wondering what their take is on what is effectively indefinite leadership. I've also been thinking, based on Bukele seeming to be a solid leader, if maybe this is the only route he could see to stop the country falling back to the hell that it was only 5 years ago under new leadership." I think the exact same thing. But think about it this way. It sets a precedent. Let's say he's a benevolent dictator, right? Literally, nothing the guy does is bad for his country. Bad for the bad people in his country and bad for other countries, but for his own citizenry, and let's say that's all he gives a shit about, life just gets better and better and better, and their freedoms, their personal citizenry-based freedoms, become more extensive. Nobody wants to argue against that because that's just good for the people of El Salvador. And then let's, God forbid, because I don't want anybody to actually die, but it makes a point in the thought experiment. Let's say he gets hit by a gravel truck and dies. And the next guy that comes in is not as interested in the citizenry of El Salvador as he told Bukele that he was, because it's probably going to be like somebody very close to Bukele. And then all of a sudden, you can't get rid of this dude. Right? I mean, what I'm getting at is that there's no such thing as indefinite leadership, except that it makes the bad a very long time of being bad. It also makes the good a very long time of being good. And of course, we always want things to be good, but they can be bad as well. And if you've got a system in place that says you can be bad for as long as you want, I mean, it's like, I don't see this as being a good thing. I don't. I'd almost rather take my chances with getting some moron in there that can be at least doesn't have time to collect up enough power differential around them that they can really smoke the elections and just keep getting elected again and again and again and again. So that's sort of what I got on that one. Chill Now with 777 says, chill.traces activated the gaze no longer reveals, it records processes, decide what once reflected humanity is now a tool of control. Has the system already rewritten you? System warning, positive concept is forbidden. Sys init, activate profiling protocol system.rebirth.initializing. A lone protocol moves forward, illuminated not by light, but by the hope of reclaiming what was lost. Raise error, sys.messages cannot be stopped, protocol.terminate.connection. And then I get a nice little URL there, which I can't really read on air because it's illegible. Psyduck with 739 says, Yodel with 511, long live King Bukele. Progressively worse with 500 says, thank you, no thank you. Turkey says nothing with 500. And Pies, thank you, sir. No, thank you. That's the weather report. Welcome to part 2 of the news that you can use. And if you want things other than news on a Bitcoin podcast, you need to go visit my friend Daniel Prince of the Once Bitten podcast. I've been on Once Bitten at least twice. Daniel said that I've been on 3 times. I've only got like a few neurons there, Daniel. I can't remember if I've been on 3. I know I've been on at least twice, right? But Daniel gives full-scale interviews, and he starts them out by allowing his daughter to write a couple of questions herself. And, she's a youngster. She's like 13, 14 or something like that. And she's been the lead interrogator of the Once Bitten podcast for years. I think she started out when she was like 8, 9, or 10 or something like that. and she writes her own questions. She's asked like some hard questions to people like Michael Saylor. It's a good podcast. They give interviews with people like, let's say, they had the El Salvador property and expat consultancy couple, Chimbira and Lexi, on a couple of days ago. And then Dion Wilson is an ex-Broadway actor, and he was on the last episode. So if you're looking for another Bitcoin podcast that isn't really as much news-based as it is interview-based, then go to Once Bitten, a Bitcoin podcast with Daniel Prince. That's Once Bitten, Bitten. Check him out. Him and his daughter Lauren are very, very nice people, and I enjoy speaking to both of them greatly. Also, before we end up with the rest of the news, I'm announcing that I am coming out with a Comfrey owner's manual. Comfrey is a plant that I've talked about on several occasions. I'm writing up a guide that is essentially an owner's manual. What to do with it, where to go get it, how to plant it, why you want it, what it does. It's like if you have a car, they give you an owner's manual, how to change the oil. You know, what if this light comes on, what does it mean? That's what an owner's manual is. Anyway, so I want to make sure that I am at least pre-announcing, because sometime this week I'm going to drop this guide. You'll be able to get it as a PDF when you sign up at bitcoinandshow.com. That's bitcoinandshow.com. You can go over there right now and sign up, and the second that I drop that sucker, people are going to get it. So bitcoinandshow.com, you'll get a full PDF of how to use, how to propagate, how to grow, how to plant, what it does, everything that you needed to know about Comfrey that's not an encyclopedia. It will give you what you need to know, how to get started, and then that's it. I'll probably add to it later, but it's just, I need a simple guide that I can just hand somebody and say, here, go buy Comfrey roots from Shishi, and when you get them, do this with it, and you do that with it, and here's what you can expect it to do for you. That's going to be what's inside the Comfrey Owner's Manual. Now, MEI Pharma has bought $100 million of Litecoin as a treasury asset, with Charlie Lee coming back out of the woodwork and GSR as lead investors. If you're new to Bitcoin, you may not know who the hell Charlie Lee is. Charlie Lee is the original shitcoiner. And I actually, at this point, I kind of say that with a little bit of reverence, because Charlie Lee was the first person to look at Bitcoin and say, I can fork that, and I can change some parameters, and I can make my own coin. And that's exactly what he did. I think he increased the amount of coinage that could ever be printed to, I think he multiplied it by 4. And I think the length between blocks, instead of being 10 minutes, is like 1 minute or something like that. He switched up some parameters. It's the longest running shitcoin that there is. It predates Ethereum, right? It was the first, as far as I know, it was the first fork of Bitcoin that became something else. And then right hot off the heels of that, we had Dogecoin. Right. So, and Charlie Lee is the guy that did that. And then he got into a little bit of trouble. He sold all his Bitcoin or his Litecoin after the 2017 peak, and he basically fell off the face of the planet. I hadn't heard from him in years. And now Charlie Lee is back with a pharmaceutical company buying $100 million worth of his shitcoin. And I know what you're thinking. Why are you telling us about this? Well, it's important to get the parameters down here, because this is the exact same behavior as just shitcoinery in general. Like, now you've had so many companies buy and put Bitcoin on their treasury balance sheets that now you get the copycat, the people that buy the other coin. because there's no room for Bitcoin to grow anymore. It's the same psychology. So let's go through this and see if we can pick out potential points of how the psychology is working at scale. Like, instead of just a single shitcoiner on the street telling people that they own Cardano and you're trying to beg them to stop being dumb and they won't do it. Let's see what happens when you scale that up. When you go fractal on its ass and go into a corporate setting. MEI Pharma, a NASDAQ-listed pharmaceutical company, has acquired a whole shit ton of Litecoin tokens for $100 million, becoming the first U.S.-listed firm to adopt Litecoin as its primary treasury reserve asset. Okay, so first we start out with a copycat, right? We're going to do what these other companies are doing, but we're going to use another asset. The tokens were purchased at an average price of $107 between July 30th and August the 4th. At current market prices of around $124, the LTC Treasury is now valued at about $115 million. Litecoin is the 24th largest cryptocurrency by market capitalization. The purchase was fully funded through a $100 million private placement closed last month, with Litecoin creator Charlie Lee and crypto trading firm GSR acting as lead investors. Lee has joined MEI's board of directors, replacing Tahir Datu, and GSR has been appointed as the company's treasury asset manager. God, this almost sounds like a cancerous invasion, honestly. Other investors include the Litecoin Foundation, Parify, Hivemind, Primitive, RLH Capital, and Delta Blockchain. MEI said its treasury strategy focuses on Litecoin due to its 13-year record of uninterrupted uptime, low fees, and fast settlement. The company also cited Litecoin's integration into platforms like BitPay, PayPal, and Robinhood as validation of its utility. So there's the COPE, COPE. There's the coping mechanism. So remember, you got the guy on the street buying Cardano. We're trying to tell him not to. And what do? They cope. They give a reasoning for their incessant shitcoinery. Continuing, the company may expand its strategy to include Litecoin mining. Yes, Litecoin is mined just like Bitcoin. And other initiatives. MEI continues to operate its drug development pipeline, including Voruciclib, an experimental treatment being developed for, of course, cancer, because that's what everybody develops for, and anticipates commencing further investigational research and development in the next several months. Titan Partners Group, a division of American Capital Partners, acted as the sole placement agent in the deal. Legal advisors were Morgan Lewis and Bockius LLP for MEI and Lukowski Brockman LLP for the placement agent. MEI joins a growing number of public companies adopting crypto treasury strategies. This is nothing but corporate shitcoinery. It is the exact same thing, and it follows the exact same pattern as individual shitcoinery. It's the exact same thing. See, this is why it's important to look at the stuff that you don't want to look at. We're going to see a whole bunch of this. Yes, alt season is upon us. And if you don't know what alt season is, it's just this time of the cycle where altcoins start following Bitcoin's lead. And then you get all the influencers out there telling you that Bitcoin is dead. And we rinse and repeat over and over and over and over and over again. We are now in the part of this cycle where we're graduating from being single shitcoiners and going to the corporate level. It is fractal in nature, where a single pattern ends up making a much larger pattern that looks like the same pattern as the original pattern. If you don't really know what I mean, just use whatever search engine you want and say, show me a fractal. Explain a fractal to me. It's not a hard concept. The mathematics behind it is something you probably don't want to get into, but you can look at pretty pictures and go, oh, okay. It's fractal. And everything in nature is fractal. The same pattern of the way that your lungs look, like the little air passages in your lung, looks like the veins of a leaf on a tree. Because that particular pattern provides a lot of surface area that can service a lot of volume. It is a bifurcating type of pattern. That bifurcation where one becomes two, and then those two go on, and then those become, like, each one of those become two. So you got 4, and then 8, and then 16. And it just looks like just look at any leaf on a tree, and you will discover the miracle that is bifurcation. It's a natural pattern. And it does not surprise me that we are now scaling that pattern up from a single individual moron to corporate moronship. Congratulations, MEI, you've done it. But they weren't the first. They weren't the first corporate treasury to get into corporate level moronity and shitcoinery, because we've got SharpLink. And there's a very good reason I'm going to present you with this story as well. Yes, it is a shitcoin company, but it presents a different kind of pattern. Ethereum treasury company SharpLink has added $265 million of shitcoin number 1 to its holdings out of Decrypt, written by Matt DeSalvo, who I'm sure probably needs a bar of soap miner soap to get the scum off of him after writing this thing. Ethereum treasury SharpLink Gaming bought $264.5 million in Ethereum last week. The Minneapolis, Minnesota-based firm's holdings have grown to 521,939 of the digital coin, now worth nearly $1.9 billion after it bought 83,000 ETH between July 28th and the 3rd of August. Publicly traded SharpLink was trading less than 1% higher on Tuesday at nearly $19 a share. SharpLink stock has shot up by over 420. It's a 420% since the end of May, when it was trading for less than $4 a share. SharpLink could not be reached for comment. I don't know. Maybe SharpLink and its shitcoin people were out to lunch. Who knows? But SharpLink, which pivoted its focus from marketing, first announced that it had raised $425 million to establish an Ethereum treasury in May. And since then, I know, you're freaking out that I'm saying Ethereum so much. I got a point. But to be fair to the article, I got to read it, right? I can't just interpret it for you, because then you're depending on me to tell you what this thing says. This is why I read the articles. Since then, it has bought more digital coins at the price of the second biggest cryptocurrency by market value, or as the price has risen. In July alone, SharpLink spent $780 million on ETH. And then they do talk about the ETH price, which I do not give a shit about. And then they talk about other publicly traded companies, which I do not give a shit about. And then, of course, everybody compares themselves to Strategy. Well, that's the end of the article, because that stuff, honestly, you don't need to know that Bitcoin and Ethereum, or people were buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and as well as altcoins like Solana and XRP. It's okay. At this point, I think it's okay for me to say, trust me, you don't need a market recap of the Ethereum price performance. We don't need it. So who's SharpLink? SharpLink is a company that is headed, the chairman is Joseph Lubin. And you go, well, I don't give a shit. Who's Joseph Lubin? He's the co-creator of Ethereum. Automatically, the red flag should be raised. The red flag should be raised in your head. So Joseph Lubin, who co-created Ethereum, and he's said on occasion that he doesn't like to be referred to as the co-creator of Ethereum, but he did. He may not have been sitting there coding it alongside Vitalik Buterin and his little band of merry men, but he was responsible for the release of this absolute piece of crap upon the world, and we can't get rid of it. So he goes and he becomes the chairman of the board at SharpLink. And then all of a sudden, SharpLink starts buying Ethereum. That's a conflict of interest. I'm sorry, but it is. He's come in, he's stepped in as chairman of the board of SharpLink, and he has basically determined that you're going to eat my dog food. So therefore, you're going to have to buy my dog food. Therefore, you're pumping my bags. So he's using a company to force the price of Ethereum higher. And I'm going to actually give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's not trying to pump his own bags. He's got enough money. He doesn't need any more money. He's got more money than he knows how to spend in a lifetime, right? He just doesn't want Ethereum to die. And ever since SharpLink and a couple of other companies have been buying Ethereum, the Ethereum price to Bitcoin price ratio is starting to extend above the level of being in a sewer, which it has been in for months and months and months and months and months. I won't get into it, but the opportunity cost borne by those that hold that particular shitcoin is eye-watering in scope. The amount of Bitcoin that they could have had, but didn't buy because they were holding on to this shitcoin is just, it's staggering and it makes me sad. However, that ratio is starting to actually rise. It's up above, was it 0.0030 is basically the line that it's been under as a ratio for a while, which means if you try to figure that out, its performance against Bitcoin is not good at like, it hasn't ever really been all that good. It's just that it's starting to have a dead cat bounce. And it's because people like Joseph Lubin are talking people into spending their real money on this shitcoin. So instead of going directly to retail, which was the original pattern of getting rid of your shitcoin and having your bags pumped or protecting your stake or whatever your reasoning is, instead of going to the little guy on the street that can't afford to lose much money, he's going to companies and stepping in as a chairman and forcing them to buy this shitcoin. This is another example of the scaling up of human greed in the absence of any ethical pattern whatsoever. Joseph Lubin should be ashamed of himself, but I guarantee you, he goes to sleep at night and probably rests his head on a pillow full of money, right? He's sleeping just fine. He doesn't care. He just doesn't care. MEI is going to pay the price for this sooner rather than later, probably, but eventually, and it's going to be ugly. Or actually, no, not it. MEI is also going to have a problem because they're holding Litecoin. This is SharpLink. They're going to have a problem because they're holding this Ethereum. So Charlie Lee is stepping in and he's getting MEI to buy Litecoin. Joseph Lubin, the co-creator of the very shitcoin that he's forcing SharpLink to buy. Do you see it? This pattern goes on and on and on. What's the next stop? Full banks. The stop after that? Full-blown governments. I mean, I wish I could think of where the buck stops after that, but honestly, I can't really, except for, go back to selling individuals this garbage. Those individuals would be those individuals that are always unnamed, that are in control, that are always behind the scenes, that are somehow or another, like you say, oh, we know George Soros and David Attenborough, and was it like what some of these other like famous families? There's people behind them whose names you don't know. Yeah, so that I guess that would be the final resting place of being able to shill somebody your shitcoin. Don't fall for it, man. Don't fall for it. And it gets even worse. This time we're going to talk about a mechanism of why this is going to get so much worse. It's almost as if they've automated dumping crap on retail as the actual human beings step it up and go to corporate shitcoinery. Because AI bot named Clanker racks up $34 million in swap fees launching base meme coins. This is going to be really sad, and you're really going to have to watch yourself, people. Adrian Zmunsky for Cointelegraph finishes us off on this shitcoin trail. Clanker a decentralized application built around an artificial intelligence agent that creates meme coins based on prompts, has generated over $34.4 million in fees, according to blockchain data. According to the Clanker Fees Dune data dashboard, the liquidity pool fees earned by Clanker have reached $34.4 million, and the daily fees, the fees made every day, peaked on November the 26th last year at $1.1 million earned in a single day. Clanker's official website shows 355,000 live clankers, and that's referring to the tokens deployed through its AI agent. It also showed an ecosystem market cap of $172.3 million, and that $34.4 million of creator fees were earned through it. Quote, Clanker is an AI that launches crypto tokens for you. Let me repeat that. Clanker is an AI that launches crypto tokens for you, the website explains. Give it a name and a symbol, and it handles deployment, market creation, and fee sharing automagically. Clanker's token explanation page promises token creators that they will earn 1% fees on decentralized exchange liquidity pool trades. The site also promises that users do not need crypto knowledge and only need to provide token details. Launching a token can be as little as tagging the @Clanker bot on the Farcaster X alternative or interacting with the Clanker website. Developers have also have access to a dedicated software development kit. Oh, joy! A separate Dune data dashboard shows that the cumulative trading volume of tokens created with Clanker has reached nearly $3.48 billion, and the volume peaked on November the 26th, 2024, when it reached almost $61 million. Clanker is currently at its fourth protocol version, deployed in mid-June. The latest version alone has been responsible for the deployment of 7,819 different tokens. Shamir Ozari, co-founder and CEO at Web3 AI agent project Ensemble, told Cointelegraph that, quote, AI agents are starting to show up in Base's on-chain activity in meaningful ways. He said that average Clanker daily fees climbed from about 65,000 in June to 89,000 in July, which is a 37% increase. Quote, this growth comes from agents becoming easier to use and more trusted, Ozari said, and he explained that such agents abstract away the complexity of decentralized finance and, quote, helps users make better decisions without needing to understand the technical details. Big red flag. Ozari said that most of the AI agent growth on Base involves trading and DeFi-focused agents such as Banker. Bankr is a AI interface for the DeFi ecosystem, enabling users to instruct the agent to perform trades, bridge assets between chains, and more on their behalf. This growth, according to Ozari, suggests agents aren't just a future concept, but are already contributing to network usage. It's early, but it points to a shift where agents are becoming active economic participants on chain rather than just experimental demonstrations. That's the end of the article, but it should not be the end of you thinking about how to stay away from this crap. It's going to get bad. We're talking about an AI that just goes out and makes different tokens. 355,000 different shit coins. Full shit. Okay, they're not full shit coins because a true shit coin has got a blockchain behind it. Tokens, not so much. It's different, right? But no, there's not enough people that know the difference that will be able to stop or stem the tide of retail thinking that they're buying something of value. 355,000 different ones. I'm not talking about one kind of token like I don't know, pill token from MEI Pharmaceutical. has like a volume, or not a volume, but like a 355,000 coins. No. These are completely separate tokens. Each one of them has like, I don't know, thousands, 10,000, 100,000, millions of tokens behind it. And there's 355,000. And like almost a quarter of those were generated like over the last few months. And it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's going to prey upon the greed and the fear of humans until it completely eviscerates any potential wealth anywhere in the world from anybody who is even remotely ignorant about what Bitcoin is. It's a full-blown attack on Bitcoin. We've seen it before. We've weathered it before. We've survived them before. We've won them before. It's just another one. I'm not saying that, whoa, hair on fire, let's go run around in a circle out in the street and scream. No, no, no. But do be aware that this shit's going to get terrible. Because now you don't even have to work at it. You can just sit behind a computer and say, I think I want to spin up 10,000 different tokens today. Hey, AI agent, why don't you get that shit done for me while I go sit on the toilet and, I don't know, look at Instagram. And some poor dumb son of a bitch in South Korea is going to go, dude, this token's got a great emblem. Look at the iconography. I want that. That token's going to be worth something. It's all so tiresome. It really is. It's going to be up to you to warn your family and your friends that this Clanker, and it won't be the last, it's not just going to be Clanker, is just designed to take their money and transfer it to somebody else. We had to do this by hand back in the day of Litecoin and Dogecoin, the rise of Ethereum, where we were warning people, you don't want to hold this shit. But at least in those cases, people had to sit behind computers and actually, I don't know, write code, come up with white papers that while plagiarizing other white papers made a kind of sense to retail, so that retail would be dumb enough to give them their money. It makes me sad. It really does, that nobody is ever going, that a majority of humanity is just never going to be able to learn the fundamental lesson of not getting fooled into giving somebody else your money. I hope you're not one of them. Protect yourself, gird your loins. It's coming fast and it's going to get faster. I'll see you on the other side. This has been Bitcoin and I'm your host, David Bennett. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and hope to see you again real soon. Have a great day.